Hi, I'm Dan and I have been acting for a few years now, so I just wanted to share a few of my tips with other people that want to get into acting because, it's nice to do that. So, one thing I found when I first started acting was that I was leaning a lot into the camera or leaning to a side, or when I was talking to someone else in the scene, I would lean forward to say my thing, to come back, to lean forward again to say my thing. And obviously, that doesn't look very natural. So remember that it can be quite a tight shot, and sometimes it's going to be like very up close to further away, so a bit more will be revealed of yourself. But just try and be aware that it's not going to look good on the camera if you are constantly moving around as you're saying you're seeing. Just like in real life, you wouldn't move around. So try and be aware of that as much as you can when getting into the process. That is, you know, stand your ground, stay pretty firm when delivering the lines. Okay, so my second tip is following on from the last thing of moving around from side to side, but now it's like with your eyes. And what I mean by that is, again, I found for myself when I first started acting was that if I was trying to remember the lines, I would be going to one side, maybe into the other side. And if I didn't have a point of focus, like if there wasn't another character in the scene, for example, and it was like a close up on my character, that because I didn't have a point of focus, my eyes would be going over here, over here, over here, and around here, and over here again. And you don't think it's something that's going to be very noticeable on camera, but it really, really is. So what I'd suggest is when practicing, or on the day, if you can't have someone standing to stare at them intensely, is to give yourself a focus point. Pick something, like I always do it whenever I'm doing auditions, for example. I will look at like a house plant in the room that I'm in, or like choose a specific corner to hold my gaze to make it seem like I'm actually looking at something rather than just letting my eyes go and do whatever the heck they want to do. Okay, now on to a bit more of the actual process of acting, which I know is probably why you clicked this video. So, tip number three. Tip number three. So, one thing that I found, and this is going to sound really cliche, but it's very, very true, is that it's not really what you say, it's how you say it. And obviously, you have the lines and you'll be expected to recite the lines as they are, but there is leeway to make things seem more natural. And when you are actually doing it, you don't need to worry about, getting a line slightly different, saying a line slightly different to how it actually is. That's fine. What's important and what the director is usually looking for is for how you say something. It could literally be what a nice day, let's say, for example. I could say, what a nice day. What effect does that have? Nothing. What a nice day. Height, higher up. What a nice day. And you know that from that, it's a bit more annoyed. Or what a nice day. Or it's all about your tone. You could literally be saying anything. What you're actually wanting to give to the viewer or the audience is you want to present them with the emotion that the character has. You could literally be saying, like, I don't know, it's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. And it doesn't really matter. It's all about the way you say it. And I guess I'm sort of going around in circles on this one, but I can't stress how important that is for when you are acting. I know it seems really obvious, but you'd be surprised. Tip number four. Another thing that I found in acting is that a lot of it is actually not focusing so much on you acting out everything. It's actually about you reacting, or your character reacting to how others are in the situation, or other characters in the situation. So if someone is angry at you, you need to feel that anger. Don't be cut off. Don't be just thinking of whatever your next line is. Don't be like, they've not said their line, I'm going to say mine. You need to, if they are angry, take a moment, be reactive to it, like as you would be in real life. If someone is sad, you're not going to just say the next line very quickly, or you wouldn't in a real conversation. You would, take a moment to soak up whatever is going on with that character, because it will make your character a lot stronger. Tip number 5. So this one is to build your character. No matter how big or small your role is, make notes, whether on paper or in your head. You don't necessarily have to tell anybody what this is, but come up with a world for your character. Make it so you know silly things. If someone was to ask you something about that character, about like what their favourite colour is, you'd know. Where they went to school, you would know. It doesn't necessarily have to be these specific things, but it's just like, ask yourself, how did your character get to that place if it's not implied in the greater story of the film or TV show or whatever it is that you end up on? Ask yourself, how did they get there? And if you don't already know, create it, because it will make such a big difference to your character, honestly. Tip number 6. So this kind of goes back to a previous tip of where it was saying it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And I'm going to use anger as an example. So if your character is meant to be angry, for example, the typical thing is obviously to go and be angry and be really annoyed and shout and be aggressive. But, do you do that when you're angry? Could you not just go really quiet, really annoyed, really, really quiet? It's like, you've got to weigh up the situation of what level something needs to be. Just because it says sad, it doesn't mean you need to burst into tears. It's like, when you're sad, do you instantly burst into tears? Or are you just a bit distant, or whatever? It's the same with any of the emotions. You don't have to play them to the extremes. You have to put the emotions that are on the paper in the script and think about it, how you would process those emotions in your own life. Hopefully that makes sense. Tip number 7. This kind of follows on from the previous tip of reacting to a character as when you're in a scene with another person. And it's really obvious when I say it aloud, but you'd be surprised what difference it makes when you actively do it. And what I'm going to say is that you need to actively listen to your character. Sorry, you need to actively listen to your scene partner or the other characters within the scene, so that you can cater your reaction to their character, and you'll really feel more like you're in the moment because you're actually being engaged with that character on a human level, rather than just, we are reading lines, they are reading lines, and I am reading the lines and reacting back. If you're really listening to what they're saying and how they're saying it, you can then use what they do and react appropriately, and it will all just flow so much better. Tip number 8. Okay, so this is a nice one to finish on. And it's probably more helpful for auditions, or if you're just a bit nervous before you're doing like a scene, or even when you're in the scene. You can do it if you're not being filmed, I suppose, at that moment. But it's basically just to breathe and give yourself a moment, because if you're so intense and it's really up here and you're trying to get everything out, and especially if you have a long thing to say, then you're just going to wear yourself out, and that's obviously not going to look great on the camera. It's not going to be very convincing for the character, and it's just going to make it more difficult for you. So just remember to breathe. which sounds really obvious again, but honestly, most of the things that I've learned of acting are all things that when you hear them, they sound really obvious, but putting them into practice, it makes a ton of difference. And you'd be surprised all the things that I've listed here, again, may seem obvious, but are not actually that obvious until you sit and think about doing them and that you're aware that you might be doing them or not doing them. Anyway, I hope this helps people out there that are interested in acting, whether that's like at a professional level or at hobby level or anywhere in between. Yeah, thank you very much for listening to me go on, and hopefully those tips are useful for you. So thanks very much. Thank you.